never actually seen anything that tells me that there is a God. And I want to believe there is a God, but I've never heard a voice or seen anything. So how do I know that you're saying there is a God is real for me?
And so just so the viewers understand, this is Dina is sharing questions that we typically get or sometimes get, or questions that people have heard. So it's not necessarily that she's asking the question from her own personal demise. So it's an interesting question. We live on a rock that hangs in a void of space, spinning on an axis in an orbit around a fireball. And it does so in a very orderly fashion. This phenomenon has been going on for longer than anyone knows. And it's so orderly that we can pin 24 hours in a day on one rising and setting of the sun, one rotation of the Earth back and forth on its axis. We can pin 365 days in a year on one rotation of the Earth around the sun. We can make very accurate predictions on the waxing and waning of the moon. And so this is a very orderly phenomenon. And so we have to infer, and all science starts here, we have to infer that there is a sacred law here. Clearly there's a sacred law here, by way of what I just described. That no president, no army, no drug cartel, no nation, no group of wealthy individuals, no sovereign wealth trust, no one and nothing has the power to change, alter, or manipulate this phenomenon. So that would indicate that there is a lawgiver here, a God or a highest power. We refer to it as the energy substratum of everything. Some people refer to it as Jesus the Christ. Some people refer to it as Muhammad. Others say Yahweh. The labels are irrelevant once you understand the universal power behind everything, which we refer, sometimes we call it the Shiva Shakti power. Sometimes we refer to it as Spanda Shakti or Chit Shakti. These are all words and labels for the same thing. There is a sacred law here. There is a power that gives power to our existence. So my first part of my answer to the question is, how could you not know that God exists? The fact that you're in a human form is proof that God exists. The fact that we're on a planet that spins on an axis in an orbit around a fireball in a very orderly fashion, on cue, day, night, weekend. The fact that through photosynthesis and how plants absorb sunlight and how animals absorb sunlight gives us the air to breathe. This is a scientific fact. Who presides over that phenomenon? Someone or something is pulling the strings. It would be foolish to say no, particularly with such a phenomenon, right? And then if we closely examine the world of forms, there's another common sense question that has to come up. It's also a scientific question. Why do human beings all have only 2 eyes, 2 ears, 1 head rather than 4 or 5, 2 hands, 2 legs, 5 fingers on each hand if you haven't lost 1 or 2? All of human forms are the same. Something or someone made that decision. Who decided that there would be all these species of insects and animals? It's a phantasmagorical existence, but there is a ruler of that existence. We have to infer it. And this is not just a pseudoscience or a spiritual premise. Modern science accepts this. So quantum physics and its branch of quantum mechanics, so just so people don't forget, quantum physics is an amazing science that has given us everything from computer technologies to cell phone technology to radiology technology to medical technology that's used in hospitals, and on and on. It's a very vast science. And the grandfather of quantum physics, Albert Einstein, posited a hypothesis that is widely embraced in this science, which is that something that appears to be a solid particle, a material thing, can be both a material form and an unseen energy force wave, force field, or force wave at the same time. That all forms have these two aspects. Now, this is an exact correlation to our teaching here of God's two aspects. That forms, all forms, have an underlying energetic foundation is absolutely proved by modern science. And it's how we have quantum mechanics, which is the engineering part of quantum physics. Quantum mechanics is the foundation for all of engineering, in which chairs can be built and airplanes can be built and microscopes can be built. Anything that has to be engineered is based on energy. We also know from the science of epigenetics, which is the new cell biology, the new DNA stem cell biology, we know from these concrete sciences that our cells give off light patterns. Our cells give off light in a beat pattern. It's known as the science of biophotons. And this light that comes off of every single human cell and every single animal cell can be analyzed to determine whether the person in this case is going to develop an illness 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now, or if they have a disease or a health condition that has not yet been diagnosed, just by examining the energetic structure of light coming off of cells. Now, who or what made the decision that our cells would have this energetic component? We have to accept that there's a higher power here. And so to understand, does God exist, all we have to do is look at this phenomenon of the place in which we reside, right? And we can look at nature. No one, it's been attempted, but no one and nothing has been able to control nature. We can't determine when it's going to rain, when the wind is going to blow, make it stop raining, when it's going to snow, when it's not going to snow. We can predict when we expect it to happen, but we can't decide we're going to change the weather on the planet and we're just going to have sunshine 24 hours a day. Scientists have attempted it, but it cannot be done. There is a higher power here. So it's easy to believe in God. Look around you. Look at the power and beauty of nature. Look at the fact that the grass continues to grow on schedule every single season, even though we pollute the environment. Look at the fact that we have warm and cool breezes when necessary, even though we pollute the environment. Look at the strength of the trees, the love in which we have trees that give off oxygen, carbon monoxide, etc., that protect us from electromagnetic fields, for example. And these trees stand tall, and they've been with us for centuries. And they grow leaves and grow fruit and shed leaves and shed fruit every single season. And even though we pollute the environment, they continue to bless us with this. Even just looking at nature, we have to come to the conclusion there is a God, a highest power. The issue is, right, when people think of does God exist, typically they've been watching too many television shows or too many movies, right? And so their expectation is if God exists and they're going to believe in God, that they have to have an experience where the clouds spread, the heavens open up, and they hear the voice of Charlton Heston say, "Whoa, this is come to me." And it's just not like that. This is not how God presents evidence that God exists. The evidence is everywhere, right? People have a lot of false notions about it. All one has to do, all you have to do is look around you, because we need power to exist. The only question is who provides that power, or what provides that power. This is where our examination begins here, in having a direct experience of God, because believing in God is not enough. A belief is an opinion. A belief is a notion. A belief is an idea. And for people who simply stop there at, well, yes, I believe in God, it's irrelevant without experience. And once you have direct experience of your true nature, once you have the direct experience that God exists in you and everyone else equally, that in you, you have a God nature, that divine consciousness is responsible for the function of your very body, that it is this highest power that sees through your eyes, hears through your ears, speaks through your mouth, etc. Once you begin to have an ongoing direct experience of that, belief is no longer necessary. So we have to go beyond belief. Here we have methods where people, and we do case study after case study after case study, and the results are always incredibly favorable. The percentages are always very, very high. 90, 95% of people who come here, when we give them the methods, the tools for going beyond the mind and beyond the senses to experience that indweller, the witness to the mind, and when people begin to have regular and then become established in the experience of bliss or indescribable joy, the palace of peace, then even the question, does God exist, is ridiculous at that point. There's no reason to even ask the question. So experience is key. Belief it may be a first step, but you have to go beyond belief and have a direct and ongoing experience, which comes from all-consuming love for God that begins to develop as you have the experience of the Absolute, that's where we have to go with that. So then we prove the experience that God is everywhere. And what was the second part of the question? I want to make sure I didn't miss any part of it.
How can I know that you are saying there is a God is real for me?
By going inside, right? By having, first we all need true spiritual leadership, because we learn best by modeling. This is true in any field. And so we need spiritual leadership that is concrete, that is true, meaning we need to be led by people who are immersed, who are completely merged in the state in which we're seeking to have permanent spiritual transformation and liberation. And then the second part is to have concrete methods for the experience of the self, the experience of the highest. And so that's the way to proceed to evidence the fact that God exists. It's based on experience of going inside, turning the mind within to that reservoir, that ocean of love that exists inside each and every one of us. It's always been there. The palace of peace, indescribable joy. This is our nature. We've just covered it up by looking outside for our happiness that exists inside ourselves. So,
Thank you.
Nam